Hello, my name is Chad Olson, a local Dubuque guy, and today I'll be playing a couple songs for you here in the Smokestack in Dubuque, Iowa. And happy holidays, I hope you enjoy it. Oh, the weather outside is frightful, but the fire is so delightful. And since we've no place to go, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. It doesn't show signs of stopping, and I brought some corn for popping. The lights are turned way down low. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. When we finally kiss goodnight, how I hate going out in the storm. But if you really hold me tight, all the way home I'll be warm. The fire is slowly dying, and my dear, we're still goodbye. But as long as you love me so, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. We finally kiss goodnight. How I'll hate going out in the storm. But if you really hold me tight, all the way home I'll be warm. The fire is slowly dying, but my dear, we're still goodbye. As long as you love me so, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow.
Hi everyone, my name is Jason Nisus. I am on the Dubuque County Historic Preservation Commission, and I volunteer with Heritage Works to lead tours all over the city as part of the Architrek tour series. Welcome to our holiday extravaganza. So over the years, there have been lots of efforts to decorate the downtown area during the holidays. Traditionally, a lot of the decorations focused on the Main Street area, which is just a block to the east of where we are right now in Washington Park. But lots of different organizations over the years have been really involved in doing that. Currently, Dubuque Main Street is behind these efforts to put up the Christmas decorations that we see here on the gazebo in Washington Park. The light poles, not just in Washington Park, but up and down Main Street, are all done through that effort. So it certainly helps us recapture some of what the holidays have traditionally looked like in downtown Dubuque over the years. There's also a nativity scene on the edge of Washington Park here downtown. Many different efforts to do that have also taken place over the years. Currently, the pioneers of the telephone company are the ones behind installing and funding the nativity scene that's in Washington Park, and that's done through their own funding and efforts, and not really involving the city in how they fund that or pay for it. For many generations of Dubuquers, Roshek's department store was the center of their Christmas world. With the beautiful Christmas decorations and Santa Claus and all the shopping and Toyland, this really was the center of a lot of Christmas time activities. The Roshek building, the Roshek brothers had a retail presence here in this downtown area since the 1860s, but the current building that we're in right now was finished in 1932, designed by Charles Wheeler Nickel. And it really became a real showpiece for Christmas type activities. So the area that we're looking at right now would have been the main selling floor. So lots of display cases in this area for gloves and perfume and hats and things like that you would have sold here. The Toyland and lots of the other clothing and things would have been on some of the upper floors above us here. But this is where a lot of the main decorations and things would have happened. The window displays that face out onto Locust Street were also well known for their, and were a big attraction for people to do their window shopping and around Christmas time. In the more modern times, Dubuque Initiatives undertook the massive restoration of the Roshek building, and the Gronin Management Company invested a lot of time and love in creating more Christmas magic for a new generation of Dubuquers. Decorations along all the mezzanine railings and a large Christmas tree and Santa Claus and events with cookies and hot chocolate and Christmas trees and wreaths and things in the lobby really brought back a lot of that magic that previous generations of Dubuquers enjoyed and remembered from their childhoods. HTLF and Cottingham and Butler have recently formed a partnership to purchase the Roshek building as their headquarters for their employees in the downtown area. So as part of that partnership, they are now redeveloping the lobby area, the main floor, to put in more amenities, a guest reception area, some cafes, restaurants and things for use by the HTLF and Cottingham and Butler employees, some enhanced security efforts and things. So soon we will see a redeveloped space and see how that becomes a new landmark in our downtown area. So for several generations of people who grew up in Dubuque, especially those in the 70s and 80s, Kennedy Mall was the center of their Christmas world. And this year, to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Kennedy Mall, they commissioned this wonderful mural that kind of walks us through the history of Kennedy Mall. So what we're going to do now is kind of show you some of the areas in the mall that are kind of decorated up for Christmas, and talk a little bit about historically what has happened at the mall for the holidays. So when Roshek's moved from its downtown location out to Kennedy Mall, this is where it was located. You can see this frame right here, right by the children's play area. That's approximately the location where the front entrance to Roshek's would have been. And then you can see back in the distance there, the escalators back there. Those would have been in the middle of the Roshek's department store going up to the second floor. So originally Roshek's had 2 full floors here at the end of the mall. Later it then became Armstrong's, which was a department store headquartered in Cedar Rapids. And then after Armstrong's moved out the area, this part of the mall was subdivided into Sears, and then Yonkers moved into part of this space over here. But Roshek's moving out here kind of brought a big Christmas tradition out to the mall with them, and we're going to see some of the spots in the mall that historically were used for the Christmas celebrations. So in the 70s and 80s, in this approximate area of this concourse, there was a sunken seating area that was rebuilt during the holidays as Santaland. So imagine there being a sunken area here, you'd walk down in it, Santa sitting on his chair, and they created a whole world of styrofoam candy wrapped in cellophane and styrofoam walls, glued up with glitter and things. It really became the place where every kid in Dubuque wanted to come and sit on Santa's lap, was kind of located right here in this area. So it was really, this was kind of the focal point, along with then moving down the concourse to Roshek's. Now after the mall opened, and in the 70s and 80s, here in the central atrium of the mall, there was a big fountain where lots of people have memories of visiting the mall and throwing pennies into the fountain and things. And that was really the central focus of the mall. Sometime in the 90s, the fountain was removed, and so taking away that element, but then allowing the mall to use the central atrium as its primary Christmas location for Santa's visits to Santa Claus and the big Christmas tree and all those things, then moved into the atrium area.
In the post-war economic boom, centers of cities large and small became economics of retail commercial development. It was during this period that we started to see a lot of the changes in what retail storefronts look like, what retail establishments look like. Because what they had to do is they had to attract traffic from cars that were speeding down streets. And so as we move forward into the 20th century, you'll see that the storefronts began to increase the size of their windows, increase the size of their display cases, because what they wanted to do was attract the cars and make them stop along the street so that they would come into their stores. They also became kind of glitzy corridors with neon lighting and lighted signage that was really meant to attract people to come into their stores from the cars as they were driving down the street. So it was during this post-World War II period where Christmas kind of became the month-long commercial event that it is today. And it was because of this then that stores did everything that they could to attract retail development into their stores. They had Christmas displays in their storefronts. They had elaborate decorations. They invited Santa Claus into their toy departments to bring children in to tell them what they wanted from Santa Claus for Christmas. And so they also did things to help finance the purchases, like they created Christmas clubs and special financing for Christmas purchases. So all of the retailers really did this to attract people into their stores during the holiday season. Beginning in the mid-1950s, the community had a Christmas parade, and this was meant to bring people downtown to celebrate the beginning of the Christmas season. The first Christmas parade was on November 25th, 1955. It was sponsored by the Telegraph Herald, and it started at Jackson Park and then wound its way to Washington Park. And estimates at the time estimated about 50,000 people attended that Christmas parade. And it ended with Santa Claus ending the parade and ending at Washington Park so that children could meet Santa Claus on that day. But again, what that was meant to do was bring people downtown to shop and to celebrate the season together. And it really provided a lot of kind of community camaraderie. So the Christmas parades continued through the 1950s and 60s, and they were sponsored by the Telegraph Herald, by Roshek's department store, by the Downtown Merchants Associations. And in the 1960s, the parades also included large balloons, like the type of balloons that they had in the Macy's parade. So it was really a kind of a special event for downtown, and really brought a lot of Christmas spirit to the downtown. The Bureau of Retail Merchants, or the Chamber of Commerce, also funded elaborate street decorations from the 1950s through the 1960s. And so it was really in the mid-1960s, it was really kind of the height of the street decorations in the 1950s. All of this was lighted and really provided kind of a magical atmosphere for people who were shopping downtown. As the 1960s wore on, of course, we had the development of the Plaza 20 shopping center out west and Kennedy Mall out west. And so that took a lot of shopping from downtown. In the early 1970s as well, with the energy crisis, that really discouraged people from electric lighting during the holidays. And so that was kind of the end of the elaborate Christmas decorations on Main Street. So we have with us Adam Schweniger, who is a resident of Dubuque, and he also works for Groen Restoration as a building restoration professional. And Adam also has become kind of an expert in vintage Christmas decorations. So we're going to talk to him today, hear a little bit about some of the Main Street decorations, but then we're also going to talk later at his place about his decoration collection. Welcome, Adam. Let's talk a little bit about the decorations that used to be here on Main Street. Can you give us a little bit of background of what you think some of those decorations were comprised of at the time?
Yeah. So actually, from a lot of the photos you've seen through the 50s and the 60s, the decorations were mostly full of tinsel. So that's what gave them a lot of shimmer and whatnot. But there were elements that were made of plastic. The ones that you would see downtown Dubuque were probably made from like the Baco Company or Union Plastics or something like that. The reason why you don't really see them much anymore is because a lot of the tinsel that covered them was actually made from lead foil. So when lead foil was outlawed in 1978, a lot of those decorations just ceased to exist completely.
So in terms of the Christmas decorations, where you see like the ones that were hanging across the street, like with the Christmas trees hanging down, tell a little bit about how those were made. And
Right, so those were usually made locally, or there would have been like a decorating company. Lately, the only time you ever see them is at Disney World or Disneyland. They still make them for their main streets. But it was basically just kind of a steel rod system that was welded together and then cloaked in tinsel. And then they added lights to it and everything. And then to have them on the street or above the street, they were just attached to the buildings by steel cables on either side. And and then lit from the businesses on either side. So
Yeah, so more recently, one of the kind of the things that we were talking about is like, wouldn't it be cool to kind of reproduce that or replicate that, realism in mind? It's like, is that the kind of thing that could even be done today? Like,
Right.
Think about, all those decorations hanging down. What would be the concerns with, for example, emergency vehicles and things like that driving down the streets?
I mean, there are still small municipalities that do it. So I know, like, if you drive out to places like Epworth or Farley in Dubuque, around Dubuque, they still, they line the streets with their wreaths and candlesticks and whatnot. It's not very often you see anything that goes directly across the street, unless it's like a really small town.
Mm-hmm.
But so it would be really neat to see that back in Dubuque, but I don't know. Guess we'll have to see if anyone wants to step up and try to create something like that for us.
Sure. Okay, so here we are at Adam Schweniger's home, and we are going to talk to him today about his wonderful collection of yard decoration. Most of it, I think all of it, is vintage.
For the most part.
So when did you start collecting and setting all this stuff out? Like, how long ago?
Well, actually, it all started with that snowman right over there by that tree. So that was the first thing we ever had. That was probably back when I was just a little kid. And my dad used to do all the decorating, but he would outline the house and put out a snowman. That was it. And then a couple of years, some things happened, and the lights got ruined from ice and snow. And he said, "I'm not doing it anymore." And we would always, when I was a kid, we'd drive out to Key West on Macokota Drive, and all those houses out there would do it. And I thought, I want to do something like that when I get older. So I just started collecting pieces at garage sales, and family friends, they'd say, "I'm cleaning out my garage, do you want this?" "Yeah, I'll take it." And so it just kind of started growing. But all these pieces that are plastic, they're called blow molds. So these were really popular 60s, 70s, 80s, and the 90s. So it spanned quite a while, but a lot of these original molds were made either in the 60s or the 70s.
So what would be the oldest piece that you have in the collection? do you
So
think?
the oldest one I personally have would probably be this snowman right here with the penguin. It's actually a reproduction. Yeah, it's a reproduction, but that one was originally made in like 1965, something like that. I do restore a lot of them, so if I can find historic ones, I like to restore them as well.
So when you say restore them, what does that mean?
So actually, this is a prime example. This snowman with the derby hat and the cane. This one I inherited from my grandparents, and the paint that they use to paint these in the factory is a special type of paint that it just doesn't come off no matter what. You can strip it off though. So what I do is I strip them down with a non-aggressive paint stripper, and then you can respray them with like a special type of spray paint that works on plastic. But you have to do it while they're lit, and anyway, after you do that, you clear coat the whole thing, and they will look just as new as the day they came from the factory. So I've done quite a few pieces that way, because a lot of times I see these in the garbage. People throw them out when they get faded or cracked a little bit, and what people don't realize is everything can be restored, including holiday decorations.
So for your electricity, did you have to get like another kind of set of circuits in order to plug it in?
This is where it ggets really nerdy, if you want to say that. Originally, this used to take 5 different circuit breakers to plug everything in, but then we had the amazing invention of LED light bulbs. And so this entire display altogether uses less than 200 watts of electricity.
Oh, wow.
So people, every time they drive by and they think, "Oh my gosh, their electric bill must be like,
like the
through the roof.
Christmas Vacation.
Where it's just spinning like that. It's nothing like that. So I tell people, if you dry your hair for more than 20 minutes with a hairdryer, you're using more electricity than I use every night plugging this in.
Oh, wow.
These actually are called the Dickinson carolers. Those are probably the most detailed pieces I have. The historic pieces I try to keep towards the back. I did want to try to tie in some of the older pieces that I put more towards the front with the classic Toyland idea. So I do have like these wood cutouts that we created of like, you know, a rocking horse or Jack in the Box and a doll. This little bear, some people might recognize that from when they were younger. That was made by Union Plastic Products. But that one's actually relatively easy to find in collections, you know, at antique places and thrift shops. So same thing with the gingerbread man. So
Yeah, I think some of my favorite ones are the elf ones.
yes,
With
yes.
the going into the mailbox, holding the candy cane, Santa's workshop.
Yep, those were again one of the first ones that got me started on the entire display. So originally I just did, you know, around the front of the house, and then I got so many that I couldn't crowd them around the front, around the bushes and everything anymore, and I thought, I'll start putting them on the yard. But then it just kind of looked silly, so I thought, oh, I gotta have more now. So I kept adding to it. So it's just gotten bigger. And then up here, luckily, I was able to get the full nativity set. Now this one was, again, also made by Empire. This is probably the oldest mold set that you'll see. This dates all the way back to 1970. And it's the exact steel molds that they used, but they just were sold from different companies. So this particular set here was made by General Foam Plastics. So you can't get this anymore. And a lot of people say this is their favorite part, religious or not.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you've been doing this for longer than 10 years then?
More, well, I would say as far as like this grand scale,
Yeah.
I've probably been doing it for maybe about 10 years. What I started with was collecting duplicates, because I like things to be symmetrical. But then I realized you can't have two of everything. So I just started looking for the pieces that you don't see around town, or things that I can remember from my childhood that I've seen at houses that went all out. So anytime I see them at like a thrift shop, an antique place, I see someone selling one online, I'm the first person to go get it. I have been known to travel up to 3 hours for one piece.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So the Santa sleigh on the roof with the reindeer,
Yeah.
I see that you have them obviously connected to the ridge of the roof.
Yes.
There's some sort of bracket or something that you have them connected to. Is that something that you created, or did it
That
come with
is
the set?
something I had to create. Most oftentimes when you see people having those, they're on the ground in the Midwest,
Right,
at least,
yeah.
because, you know, it's Iowa, it gets windy, and they blow right off the roof. In fact, the first year I ever had them, they did blow off the roof. The reindeer have changed a little bit through the years, but the sleigh design is original to 1970. When I saw it, I had to have it, because I've seen it when I was younger, so I had to have it up on my own roof.
Mrs. Santa Claus has like actual glasses on her face.
Yeah, yeah.
So did she come that way, or
She did.
So do you have to like take them off when you store them?
No. So storing them, that's a whole nother process. They obviously take up a lot of room. It's a game of Tetris. They all just kind of fit in a certain way, like a big puzzle. And I also have all these in Halloween too. I get joy out of it. It's kind of annoying putting it up and taking it down, but while it's up, it's nice. And I love talking about it. And we do have a couple of kids that live in the neighborhood. They look forward to it every year, so.
Yeah, this is amazing. There's a bunny there.
Oh, there is. Yeah, we have little, they don't mind at all.
Yeah.
They just kind of hang out.
Afternoon, we're over at Mulgrew's in East Dubuque. One of the reasons we're over here too is that Mulgrew's this year is celebrating its 100th anniversary operating today. So here we have Teresa Ownersorg here, who's one of the owners of the bar, going to talk a little bit about the Christmas traditions here at Mulgrew's and help us understand how they celebrate the season. So tell us a little bit about why you're open on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day.
Well, we've never been closed any day up until COVID. That was a new experience for us, but it's always just been our hours. We're open. We like to have a place for people to go. There's people without families and people with families that come in and make this their tradition to come here every year to celebrate Christmas in some capacity. So we like to be here.
Well, you said it's even part of a lot of families' traditions, right? People bring their
absolutely.
kids, or people bring people from out of town to come by for their holiday tradition at Mulgrew's.
That is correct, yes. We have Santa and Mrs. Claus here on Christmas Eve too, for something for the kids to do.
And Santa and Mrs. Claus, of course, sitting on a throne of Busch Light in the liquor store. So, all right, just want to make sure people know what they're getting themselves into.
It's themed.
It's quite a family celebration, family themed.
We sure try.
That's good. So I know you've got your fixins here for one of your holiday staples here, which is your Tom and Jerry. Can you walk us through how you make a Tom and Jerry?
Well, Tom and Jerry is kind of a Dubuque tradition. That's kind of the only place anybody really knows it to come from, but it is the Tom and Jerry batter, brandy, rum, and hot water, and a little bit of nutmeg on top.
Okay. And you've got, so the batter you get packaged in your little...
Yes, we get this from Chesney Foods in Dubuque.
Okay.
They make it, and it's basically just sugar, egg whites, and Christmas spices. I don't know what the spices are, but it's definitely got a holiday feel to it.
The secret blend.
Yes,
okay.
we don't ask, we just make.
All right.
Just go with it.
So put a little batter in first.
We always say a generous helping.
A generous helping, all
You don't
right.
want to chintz out on it. And it's a half a shot of each.
Half a shot of brandy.
Back around. And I like to use a spiced rum. Just because it's got this more spice to it, gives it a different flavor than just a regular rum. And then your hot water. And that batter's going to float right to the top then.
Give it a little stir.
Yep. Once we get it off the spoon, and you want to stir it up and make it frothy. A little bit of nutmeg on top. And you've got your traditional Tom and Jerry.
Great.
It's very
thanks.
simple, but it's good.
Well, it's definitely a part of my family's holiday tradition, so we're glad you all are keeping it alive here at
We
Mulgrew's,
sure will,
too.
and I plan to do the same thing. There's a lot of traditions I'm not letting go. So.
Well, congratulations on your 100th anniversary. That's really quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, it is. We're pretty proud of it, too.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Holiday goodness.
Jerry. I did in here. Oh my golly, have a holly jolly Christmas this year.
We definitely enjoyed putting that holiday video together for you. It's very interesting to see how Dubuque celebrated the holidays in the various eras of the past. And of course, Dubuque will continue to celebrate the holidays in a way that makes sense for each generation, and which is the way it should be. Each generation kind of creates its own traditions and its own memories. And so now we'd like to talk to you a little bit about the work that Heritage Works has done over the last year. The events of the last couple of years really caused us to focus on our core mission of making our shared heritage and cultural historic assets work for people and the community. We love historic buildings not just because they're interesting and aesthetically pleasing, but because they also provide housing, jobs, entertainment, and vitality to people in the community. Our purpose is not to preserve historic buildings and neighborhoods as relics of the past. Instead, we look to activate historic resources that have been built to last for centuries so that they are productive and usable not only for current time, but for the future generation that will be using them 50 to 100 years from now. In the future, you will hear us referring to ourselves more as a historic activation organization rather than a historic preservation organization, because really our mission is more people-focused and finding new uses for historic buildings so that these beautiful historic assets can continue on into the future. We will be telling you more about historic activation in the coming months. We really are excited about the future that this holds for our organization, but I think it really holds some very interesting and dynamic things for the community as well. In 2021, we continue to make a strong impact in all areas of our mission. On the historic preservation advocacy area, we worked on a national level with the Historic Tax Credit Coalition and the National Trust to advocate for enhancements to the federal historic tax credit program that would help some projects that were impacted by the pandemic. They would also substantially help small projects as well. So we continue to work on that front, and we hope that legislation will be passed either yet this year or early next year that will enhance the federal historic tax credit. We will also work with state partners to make sure that the state historic tax credit will maintain a strong program in the state of Iowa for the coming years. We also have a strong partnership with the city of Dubuque in efforts to save historic buildings, to enforce existing codes, and to work with financing and funding programs to make sure that there are adequate funds available for people who want to redevelop historic buildings. In the area of preservation workshops and vocational training for historic preservation trades, we were able this year to host another 3-day workshop with Bob Yap, noted restoration professional from Hannibal, Missouri. He came to Dubuque in October of this year to work with a local property owner to help restore the wood, the exterior wood siding and other wood details on their property in the Washington neighborhood. It was really a great project to help train younger people, help train property owners who wanted to learn how to restore wood elements on their properties, and just also to in general, help a much needed project in the Washington neighborhood. In 2021, we continued to work with a long list of property owners that have projects both large and small to redevelop historic buildings. We help them with planning and design and funding resources for these projects. But a couple noted projects that were completed this year include the Dubuque Voices project. We've been involved in that project from day one, helping as both the historic preservation consultant, but then this year we also unveiled a program that we have called the State Tax Credit Investment Partnership that helped to bring several $1,000,000 to the project because of our nonprofit status. And again, that is a program that we will be talking about more in the future, but it is a program that we as a historic preservation nonprofit can provide to projects to help bring additional financial resources to their project. Another project that completed in 2021 that has been a project that has been in the works for several years and has taken several years is the Steeple Square project. And again, Heritage Works was involved in that project from the beginning as a historic preservation consultant. I also serve on the board of Steeple Square, but then also we helped to create an innovative vocational training program in which several people learned vocational training trades in the restoration of stained glass and wood window restoration. They actually completed the restoration of the last stained glass window just this last month. And again, it's been a unique project that has helped to restore the windows all with local talent. And so all of the money for the restoration of those windows stayed in the local community, whereas otherwise it would have gone outside of the local community. But on top of it, helped to give several people in the community some additional employment training that they could take either to start their own business or to take to a job in the historic preservation trades. One other project that we started in 2021, but has been again in planning for several years, is the Unitarian restoration. And this particular project is a really classic restoration. It's going to involve the replication of a belfry that was removed from the building probably 30, 40, even more years ago. We're not really sure when it was removed, but the restoration project will restore that belfry to the building, as well as restoring many other historic features of the building on the outside and the inside. Heritage Works prides itself on its ability to help projects attain another level when it comes to their restoration of their historic building. One such example is the restoration of the St. Peter and Paul Church in Petersburg, Iowa, which is just 30 miles west of Dubuque. We've been involved in that project from the beginning, and because of their wonderful fundraising and their ability to find sources of funding, they have been able to take the restoration of that building to a much higher level. They were able to restore some of the mural paintings and stencils that were originally created in the early 1900s. They were able to uncover some of the design of those and then have those replicated in the restoration of the interior artwork of the church. But most recently, in the spring of 2021, we helped the parish connect with Neil Vogel, who is a restoration expert based out of Chicago, Illinois. And he came to Petersburg, spent several months there with a crew of people who restored the ornate altars at the St. Peter and Paul Church in Petersburg. They have altars from the Hackner Company based out of La Crosse, Wisconsin, and some of the most elaborate altars that you would see in any church. And so the Neil Vogel's Restore It crew was able to restore those altars. And we've created a video for you so that you can see some of the detailed restoration work that they did at the church. And again, this just illustrates that our work can help bring the professionals to projects to help finish restoration on a much higher level.
I'm Neil Vogel with Restore It out of Chicago. We do building restoration and are here in Petersburg, Iowa, working on St. Peter and Paul, built around 1906. And our primary role here, there's been a lot of players and a big team that has been working on the entire church. We're here to work on the altars right now. The altars in general have been, the woodwork's beautiful, it's mostly just been cleaned, and there's a conservation varnish that's going over all the woodwork. The idea was not to have a high gloss or a high sheen, but to keep this aged appearance, so we're still using a matte varnish on that. The gold leaf kind of varied around. There's a lot of different types. There's a white gold that's been used, and it tarnished real badly. Well, the gold held up pretty well. So a lot of the white gold has been redone, while the gold in general has just been cleaned. This background, this red color that's in the background of the columns has been repainted. It was a real fugitive color, and it faded real bad to almost a pink color. And we took it back. We could tell what the original red was. It was more of a crimson, and we've gone back with all that to help the gold pop. The rest of the altars are pretty much just a cleaning, except for the column shafts, and these were all water gilded, completed by Jen Ring, who's working with us. They have a wood shaft, and then there's a plaster sleeve behind that, and then the water gilding went on top. Well, the plaster and the wood, expanded and shrank at different rates, and that caused the plaster to crack and fail and chip. And so there was a real inconsistency with how they were done. So we made the decision to go back and re-water gild all the column shafts and then reline them. This little decorative detail is a lining with a brush back on the gild.
Hi, I'm Jen Ring with Restore It. I'm a decorative artist, and I have been working on the water gilding and the decorative detailed lining on the drums. These drums have been carved originally, so there were little indentations that I followed along with my liner. And then after this dries, I'll apply a satin varnish for a little difference in sheen that you'll notice more from the ground.
So explain, what does water gilding mean?
Well, water gilding, traditionally, you would use a gesso and a bowl, and then you would reactivate the bowl, which is extremely smooth. And once you reactivate the bowl, you can apply the leaf, and you use a gilder's tip to apply it. It just kind of sucks right onto it. And then once that's dry, you can burnish to a really high sheen. Base, which is clear on top of the Venetian red. And then after it loses its, if you can see, it goes a little bit milky. It'll lose that, and then it will be ready to apply the gold. So then here is a difference between traditional water gilding and the system. So we're able to use patent leaf, which is attached to the tissue paper. With traditional water gilding, you would use loose leaf, which is only hanging on there by static electricity. So this gives you a little bit more control, especially when you're wrapping these corners and getting into all of the little crevices that you have to do. Then, right now I'm applying a little bit of pressure just to make sure it's all adhering, and I'm using a little bit more along the seams to make sure those are solid. There we go. And I'll show you what it looks like with the burnish in just a second as well. You can use a cotton ball for this, but I like to feel it. Let's see, where's my edge? So then the burnish, you can use a tissue, cotton ball, but it's just a really gentle process, and it brings it up to that higher sheen. You can see the difference between here and here where I haven't burnished. And that's that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so my name is Jeremy Rudd, and I'm a sculptor and artist, and I actually live in Petersburg, Iowa, and I'm a parishioner here at St. Peter and Paul. And my primary job has been finding and fixing the woodwork on the altars, finding and replacing pieces that are missing. So I find what's missing, and then I find whole portions of it. I take it back to my studio, make molds, cast them, carve them, and re-sculpt them so they look like the originals. The altars are in pretty good shape, but they're missing a lot of pieces, and a lot of things are broken. And over the years, people pick up the broken pieces and they put them in boxes and they shove them in closets, or they find it on the floor and they throw it on the altar. But this is what we have left. So what I'll do then is I'm actually going to remove this whole portion and rebuild this in the studio with some clay, fill in the missing parts on the back, and then I'll make a mold of the whole thing, cast it in resin, and we'll get it painted to match the existing woodwork.
Hello, my name is Tina, and I'm an artist with Restoric out of Chicago. We are here doing some restoration and preservation work at St. Peter and Paul Church in St. Petersburg, Iowa. A local carpenter and artist here, he was able to take this in particular is an original piece and plaster little angel, and it's been broken. And so one of the ways that we were able to replicate them is to make a cast out of resin. And we made a few of these, and the process is that the resin is made and fabricated, and then they were primed, and then we applied a 23.75 karat gold leaf over them, and that's the point that you see these at now. They're a little too bright, so what the goal with not only this part of the job, but everything is to fix it, repair it, but not make it look brand new. We want to still make it look like it was part of the church And so this will need to get an antiquing, which we'll do with a varnish and a little bit of tint, and that way it will look just like the color and patina that has.
St. Peter and Paul Church is just one of the projects that we've been so grateful to be involved with over these last 6 years that we've been in operation. It helps to bring a beautiful building back to its original design, or in much of its original design. But then we also enjoy working with the people that really want to do the right thing by these buildings, but then more importantly, want to make these buildings more productive and useful for our current time. I want to thank you all for joining us for a little bit of holiday cheer with Heritage Works and to find out some of what we've been doing over the last year. We're really excited for what is in store for 2022. We are looking forward to sharing with you our concepts for historic activation. So we hope that you follow us, continue to follow us in what we're doing. I think you'll be excited with what you see. We also, since it's the end of the year, we also encourage you to consider us in your year-end gift giving, to join us as members if you haven't already. Those of you who are members, we hope that you renew for 2022. We certainly appreciate all the support that you have given us over the years in terms of the memberships and the support, the financial support that those of you that have given us. We appreciate everything that you do. So again, consider us in your year-end gift giving. We have sent a mailing out, so feel free to respond to that mailing or just go to our website, www.heritageworksdbq.com, and click on the Donate Now button. You have the opportunity to join as a member or to donate whatever you feel that you can. So thanks again for joining us, and we wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and we look forward to great things in 2022.
And this next one is an original called Daisies. Calamity of the situation has me feeling some hesitation about the way that you deal. And no one can really say any different. The words in the mic that I am spitting, it's just the way that I feel. Looking for final resolution or a way out of this institution, just the final deal. And it's a simple kind of feeling I have about you. Is it just me or the drink in my hand? Life is swirling like a tornado of lost souls in the night. Ooh, what a night. Going through a field of daisies has me feeling a little lazy from the haze in my room. And people laugh, others cry, I hide the truth with a rug will lie, bending all of the rules. Sitting quietly with jokes in my head, thoughts of you before the bed, quiet sleep comes soon. And it's a simple kind of feeling I have about you. Is it just me or the drink in my hand? Life is swirling like a tornado of lost souls in the night. Ooh, what a night. It's a simple kind of feeling I have about you. Is it just me or the drink in my hand? Life is swirling like a tornado of lost souls in the night. Ooh, what a night. Thank you.